Elvis Costello and Allison. What a pretty song on Boom 97.3 on Turntable Tuesday. Just want to say that it was about a few weeks ago. We had Rick Mercer in here singing the praises of Ray McGuire and Trooper.
Trooper, for starters, would play Newfoundland. They'd play the stadium. Now, I was never old enough to go, but my sister would go to Trooper, and she had the Trooper out. You know, she had Hot Shots and all that. I've just always loved Trooper. I've licensed Raise a Little Hell more times than I think any song.
So here to sing the praises of Rick Mercer is Ray McGuire from
What
Trooper.
a hell of a guy that Rick Mercer is, eh? Jeez, he's a guy.
Welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here, Stu.
Always good to see you. Let's talk about Allison. It's one of the vinyl. It's one of the LPs that you brought in for us to play from Elvis Costello's album. What is it about that song?
Well, I mean, how many love songs are there where the guy says, somebody better put out the big light? You know, I really love you, but if you don't cut this out,
I'm putting out the light.
I'm putting out a hit on you.
So you remember, vinyl, obviously, you and I are well, you are a lot older than I am, but we are from, a generation of vinyl buyers all the time. People camping out at record stores and stuff like that.
Waiting for the new one to come in.
You remember that from the Elvis Costello things? What do you remember about buying that?
The Costello album was a revelation. I mean, it was, I mean, like everything that's new, it doesn't sound like it anymore because everybody jumped on those sounds, those production techniques, those lyrical approaches, so it gets all watered down after the fact. But when that happened, I mean, that record was just like a bolt of lightning. Mm-hmm. It was so different from everything else that was going on, so raw and rough, but because it was Elvis Costello, totally accessible, right?
Right.
So, I mean, I was just dumbfounded. I was flummoxed when I heard it. So I don't know if it still has that effect for people now, but at the time, man, that was an amazing moment.
And is there something about, I don't know, I've downloaded songs like crazy. There is something about vinyl, and there's something about downloading a digital song. They're just like night and day. And that, I mean, I've got Allison in my iPod. It just didn't sound that good. There's something about that sound.
Did you ever go to like somebody's apartment and start ripping through their through their LPs, right? Oh, so you're this kind of person, right?
That's right, exactly.
Oh, you have this album? Geez, look at the time.
Yeah, I'm out of here.
I gotta get going.
That's right. You can't do that anymore, right?
Not at all, right?
No.
Can I have a look at your phone? And
yeah. So we just can't judge people anymore. That's the problem.
We shouldn't
with digital. No.
Come on.
Now, at Turntable Tuesday, you were kind enough all the way from Vancouver to bring in a couple of albums. Elvis Costello was one of them. We're going to hear from Ricky Lee Jones next. So what was it about Ricky Lee?
Well, same thing to a large degree in an entirely different way because that's a very, very polished record. I think it was the guy that produced the Doobie Brothers and stuff. I mean, it's beautifully done. But I was prior, and still am for that matter, a huge Tom Waits fan. And there's a big crossover there, and they knew each other. They went out. So this perfectly produced record with this kind of beatnik groove going on with this amazing singer. I mean, you think about Amy Winehouse and you think about Ricky Lee Jones, like people probably don't, but they both have that same kind of interpretive jazz voice, except she was singing, pop music that was bent. It was bent pop music, right? So again, like when Chucky's in Love came out, it was like, what is this?
That's right.
Except it worked, right?
Yeah.
And those are the rare records that do. And then a lot of these people go on. I mean, her next record was creatively, artistically magnificent, but no big hits.
No big hits.
And then next record was creatively more, but she was starting to come off everyone's radar. But this record here, same thing. When it came out, I was jaw dropped.
From the Ricky Lee Jones debut, Chuck E's in Love, a Ray McGuire favorite on Turntable Tuesday on Boom. So, you remember the first record you bought? What was it? Was it a 45 or was it an album?
It was by it was called the Three, something by the Bells. There's a chapel hidden deep in the valley beneath the dun, dark and gray. And there on a sunny morning, I was probably 12, maybe 11. I used to go to a place called Commercial Grinders, which was probably run by the mafia because they took all the 45s out of the jukeboxes and sold them for 10 cents each. So,
brilliant.
Yeah, right? It was like this little hole in the wall down in Commercial Drive, and I used to go down there with my dad and buy, big pile of 45s that were, a year old, right? But,
right. Now, is there one particular song or one particular piece of vinyl that sort of maybe changed your life in a way? And I mean, I don't mean not in sort of that dramatic way, but just kind of made you look at things a little differently, made you think about music a little differently, or even maybe just about the person a little differently.
Well, vinyl was 45s for a long time, even before it was albums for me. So, I mean, the first 45 that blew my mind, I actually was taking a disc jockey course when I was 13 years old. A guy named Buddy Clyde in Vancouver was a big, famous jock at the time. And we had a Christmas party, and he put on, it was Please Please Me, but it was the guy who did run it with Del Shannon. It was Del Shannon's version of Please Please Me by the Beatles. And the party went crazy. Same arrangement, everything, just a different voice. And it was the first time I'd ever been anywhere where somebody just kept moving the needle back to the beginning of the song. They must have played the song, they must have played it like 10 times in a row, and the whole party was just going. So, I already had heard that. And then, being Canadians, we heard the Beatles before, even the Americans did. So, I mean, after that, they were everything. I mean, they were a spiritual awakening, a musical awakening. They spoke for our generation. I mean, everything that you could have wanted at that time. I hope that, kids in this generation have someone, that affects them equally. I've always wanted to ask this. The feeling that you got when Trooper had their first album. Did you go buy a copy yourself? Did you go down to the record store and buy a copy? Or I just move them to the front of the just go to the record store.
It stood right beside it.
Front of the rack. Triumvirate. Okay, here it is. Yeah. No, I didn't do that. No, the whole thing was kind of squidgy for me.
What do you mean?
Well, for one thing, you never get the record you tried to make. You always, when you hear them, you always hear the things that you were trying to do that you missed.
Right.
So for one thing, listening to them was no thrill for me. People that would put on the record when I came into a party, that just buzzed you. For me, right? It was like, oh, no, please. I spent way too long with these tracks already.
Right.
And the whole fame thing was, we never had time to think about it or bask in it for a second. It was like as soon as the first record was done, we were doing a tour to support it. As soon as, that tour was winding up, we had to be writing songs for the next record. They were 9 months apart.
Ray, thanks so much. It's always good to talk to you.
Pleasure.
Well done, Ray. Well